Hello and welcome to Endless Creep. If you are here for scary true tales and terrifying horror stories, then you are at the right place. Today we have 3 terrifying true tales to share with you. I used to work in a cupcake van in the gardens of a castle in Yorkshire, England, during the summer months. We sold coffee, cakes and other assorted refreshments, and it was an easy way to make a few pounds in the university holidays. I was on my usual Saturday afternoon shift. The weather hadn't been very pleasant that day, so there weren't many customers. As lunchtime came, more people began to queue for coffees, and I was minding my own business while serving them, when I could see a figure bobbing in and out of my eye line to the right. Between serving, I looked over, and it was a tall, thin man wearing large rimmed glasses with longish brown hair that was cut into a bowl cut style. He was staring at me with his nose scrunched up like he was straining his eyes to look at me so hard. I ignored it the best I could as he walked off, and I brushed it off as maybe someone who thought they had recognised me. 10 minutes came and went, and I had served a handful of customers who were now lounging in the fold-away chairs in front of the van. I was turning around, cleaning down the milk frother, when I heard some rustling behind me. Thinking it was another customer waiting to be served, I turned round to meet the staring eyes of the man. I asked my usual question of, "Can I get you anything?" because he could have genuinely been a customer. He stood silent, just staring at me. I tried to keep my best customer service smile, but something about his eyes was so unsettling. An older guy and his son approached from behind the man queuing to be served, and I motioned for them to step forward. They seemed to notice the guy motionless, still staring at me, and asked if he was okay. He said nothing to them either, and simply stepped to one side to continue to watch me. I served the 2 guys their coffees, and they sat down in front of the van and mouthed to me to ask if I was okay. I nodded, but they could clearly see I wasn't as they whispered to each other, and their eyes never left the man. I sighed in relief as the man seemed to move away out of eye line, and I turned around to finish my cleaning. As I was cleaning, I saw a shadow at the door of the caravan. I knew instantly it was him. He was trying the door to the caravan, which thankfully I always locked when I was lone working. Obviously, finding it locked, I could see him through the tiny window, surveying the back of the caravan, looking for a way to get in. At this point I was horrified, my heart was pounding, and I had no idea what to do. Suddenly, the man's face was at the window, staring straight at me before he looked around as much as he could, then disappearing out of view. The 2 men, thankfully, were still at the table drinking their coffees, but unable to see what was happening behind the caravan, and as if by magic, the strange man appeared at my serving hatch again, and this time he spoke. He asked me where I live and what time do we close. I'd never thought so quickly on my feet before, but I gave him a previous address and told him we closed an hour later than we actually did, knowing it would give me enough time to pack up and be gone if he chose to come back. My answer seemed to satisfy him for the time being, and he walked away. A wave of relief spread over me, and I couldn't help but start to cry as the 2 men rushed over and questioned me about what had happened. The older man stayed with me while I called my boss and asked her to come and help, and the younger man ran in the direction the strange man had gone, but came back minutes later saying he had just vanished. The police were called, and a new policy was made for people walking alone. Every day I am so thankful for those 2 men who stayed throughout the whole ordeal, making sure I was okay. But to the strange watcher at work, let's not meet again. I got set up on a semi-blind date by a mutual friend, and this guy we will call Cameron. He was 19. Cameron seemed like your average guy, maybe a little into video games and anime and stuff, but overall nothing my friend told me about him seemed off in any way. Our mutual friend gave us each other's numbers and we texted for a night and decided to meet in a Starbucks the next day since we were both free. I never like to meet new people this soon, but I figured since Cameron knew my friend, it couldn't possibly go wrong. How mistaken I was. I arrived slightly early, ordered my coffee since I never like guys to feel that they have to buy for me, and parked up on a seat facing away from the door and pulled out my book. I was there for about 15 minutes chilling out and I got a text saying he's here. So I told him what table I was sat at. I feel a presence over my shoulder and turn my head slightly in acknowledgement. He must be here. Before I even get chance to squeak out a hello, his lips latch onto my neck and he starts sucking on my neck. Now, I don't like people touching my neck at the best of times. I'm very ticklish and I get super uncomfortable by people even touching my neck. The few times I've had massages or hair treatments, I've been holding in my discomfort, and he's latched on my neck like a leech, and this man smells horrendous, kind of like dust personified. I freak out, elbow his chest to get him the hell off me. He lets go and looks at me with this weird expression on his face and laughs in deadpan. It's really, really creepy and I start to become alarmed. I ask him what the hell that was and he just says, "I thought it was cute." I try to have a conversation. I'm like, okay, first impressions don't mean anything. Let's try and give him a chance. But he's just creepily staring at my chest. He says, "Wow, I didn't know Asians could have boobs like those. I better not let you go." Direct quote. I cannot make this up. I'm distinctly uncomfortable, but I don't want to just run away. He is giving me really weird vibes. So I go into the ladies' bathroom and wait for someone else to come in. When she does, I ask her to help me get out undetected. I don't want this man following me home. She of course agrees, lends me her hat and scarf, and we come out of the bathroom together and she manages to help sneak me out of the back door of Starbucks without him noticing. He asked my friend where I went, but I told my friend never to mention me again. I was too terrified. I know I probably didn't behave well. I should have just told him I was leaving, but honestly, I was just scared. So, dear guy who decided it was appropriate to suck my neck before we even said hello, let's not meet again. When I was 16, I would nanny for two boys, Brandon who was 8 and Randy who was 15. Randy had mental health problems because of a birth defect, but either way, he was a sweetheart. But you could tell something was off by the way he walked and moved his hands. They had a dog called Gunnar that was a huge Akita and yellow lab mix. This dog was huge and protective. I watched the kids every other week, all day, Monday to Friday. Gunnar watched everything I did the first week. I had to gain this dog's trust. That first week, the dog made me uneasy because if I was with the kids and they would start being loud and rowdy, he would get between me and the boys and start growling, even if I wasn't playing with them and happened to be near them. Gunnar learned to trust me really quick though. There were 2 times that Gunnar saved our lives. The boys lived in a rough neighbourhood, not scary, just rough around the edges. We went for a walk to the playground a couple of blocks away and a white van slows down by us. There was a bunch of guys yelling at us from the window, saying inappropriate things to me and calling Randy horrible names about his condition. Gunnar didn't take his eyes off the van. The tension pulled the fur on his back straight up, signalling to us that he was in protective mode. As the men kept yelling at us, I pulled my phone out and started to dial 911, but I didn't hit send before Brandon started yelling back, defending his brother. Then everything happened so fast. The slider back door to the van opened and 2 men jumped out. I screamed "run" at the boys, just as Gunnar ripped himself free from my grip on his leash. Everyone started running but me. The boy sprinted home, the dog sprinted towards the van, and I frantically tried dialing 911. Gunnar chased the men back into the van, nearly grabbing the leg of one man and they sped off. Gunnar received a lot of treats and praises when we returned home. Now, on to story 2, and this one really freaks me out. I was allowed to have friends stop by since I practically lived there, and the boys like hanging out with my wholesome teenage friends. If it was a male though, I'd have to go outside and hug them where Gunnar could see and talk to them for a few minutes on the porch. Gunnar would assess them. Normally, he let them inside without trouble after that, but there was this one friend he wouldn't let inside without coaxing. Gunnar would never bite anyone unless actually attacked, just for context. One day, a man came to the door, knocked and said he had to drop something off for their mum, who was supposedly expecting it. We could see through the window that he seemed like a gentleman and was very nice, but as I approached the door, Gunnar cut me off. He started barking at the door insanely. His back stood higher than my hips, and at the time I was a small girl, and the dog just forced me back. Gunnar literally prevented me from being able to reach the doorknob. He was gentle with me, but forceful. I yelled back to the guy to leave whatever it was on the porch, but he seemed really insistent, saying things like, "Can you really not just unlock the door for a minute? Come on, Randy knows me," etc. But I had to tell him I physically couldn't get past the door, so I would call the mum for him. The man got weird and said that was not necessary, I'll come back another time, and then he rushed off. The guy had some distinct features, and when I described him to the mum later, she informed me that she had no idea who he was and that she wasn't expecting anything. We never found out who he was, and he never came back. So, thanks Gunnar, and let's not meet white van hoodlums and the creepy not delivery man. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, please be sure to hit the subscribe button before you go. If you have any of your own scary true tales to share with us, then please email us. The email can be found in the description below. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe.